Hi, I'm Jocelyne Wilson. I'm on the committee of Rochester Choral, and I'm delighted to welcome Simon Mascarenhas Carter to be our soloist for our upcoming concert of The Dream of Gerontius. A very important part as you are portraying the role of Gerontius, and it's a significant part for you. I'd love to hear about your history with singing.
Yeah.
How did you start off? Where did you grow up? How was your voice discovered?
Yeah, I grew up in Cambridgeshire, and like most people who start singing in the UK, it's through school or through cathedral choirs. I wasn't a chorister or anything like that. I always sort of dreamed of being a chorister when I was a boy, but the option wasn't open to me. So it was during school choirs in my teens, and before my voice broke, there wasn't really anything there. It was very much sport and academics. But once my voice had broken, there was something there, and I was encouraged by a couple of wonderful teachers, a former opera singer. And from then, it's just followed a path, really, from school going to Norwich, where I studied to be a pharmacist, actually.
Did you?
Yeah, I studied to be a pharmacist at the University of East Anglia, but I kept up singing. I sang at Norwich Cathedral whilst I was there, and then after that went on to work in a hospital for a couple of years, and then also sang as a lay clerk at King's College, Cambridge. So I've always kept up those two things, and it was really when, after singing in Cambridge, I went to the Royal College of Music, which is just down the road from here.
Yes.
That was when I sort of, there was a crossroads, really. I had to decide whether it was time to really go for it. And I had a wonderful teacher for a number of years who I met through Norwich, Patricia Rosario, and it just felt like the right time. I was in my mid-20s, and for a male singer, sometimes it can take a little bit longer to develop. So by my mid-20s, a couple of years ago, I just felt like the time was right to give it a shot. And that's where we are now. I've finished at the Royal College of Music and working, and delighted to be doing The Dream of Gerontius. It's a dream piece to be able to do. Yeah.
That is so good to hear how important an influence your teachers had at school in spotting your talent and encouraging it. And we are dismayed to hear that there's less and less class music going on in schools in the UK. And I just hope that that students like you will be able to be supported in the future to continue their journey. But how did you know that you were a tenor? Can you describe to people who may be listening who don't know what all the different voice parts mean? Yeah,
well, you can probably hear in my speaking voice, it sits a little bit higher. But when a male voice breaks, I mean, for me, I went right down to a much lower voice, to more of a baritone or a bass.
Yes.
So with male voices, the lowest you have is a bass, and then above that is a baritone, and then a tenor, which is the highest male voice singing with the full chest. Above that is a countertenor, but that's a slightly different technique. So I thought I was a baritone or a bass, slightly lower. I really admired Dmitri Vorosovsky, one of the great baritones. I listened to a lot of him when I was a teenager. But it was a slow discovery, I suppose. Over a few years, you start. I had a very nice teacher at the time who sort of tried me out on different repertoire. You know, you listen to great singers. You know, Pavarotti obviously was one as well that you listen to all the time and try and imitate. And you just start to realise what you can, what you can't do, and you know, it's always with singing, the support of a good teacher is basically is everything. It's, in the early stages, so important. So. Yeah,
so can you do those 5 high C's in La Fille du Régiment?
Well, that's probably not just yet, really. It's still very much in the works. It's possible. I think Donizetti repertoire is something I'd like to do. So one day, maybe. Yeah.
And how do you have to look after your voice?
Yeah.
Were you taught at college in terms of diet, steaming? How do you protect your instrument?
It's a really good question. I think everyone finds what works for them over time, I guess, and experience. For me, I'm still relatively early, very early in my career, so I'm still working it out. I think the key things are obviously remaining incredibly well hydrated and looking after the voice in the sense of limiting alcohol intake near singing and that kind of thing, and basically finding things that really works. You know, things like that to avoid acid reflux and those sorts of things. For me personally, when it comes to actually the day of singing of a performance, something like that, it's generally light meals, fairly plain plain foods and drinks.
Yes.
And remaining really well hydrated. And you're right, things like steaming as well, absolutely. And just making sure you're really well warmed up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what about performance nerves? Do you get nervous before you sing?
Absolutely. I'm not sure that's ever going to change. I mean, you hear singers who, you know, some people deal with it better than others. And some people say a bit of nerves is good for a performance, you know. And so far anyway, it has never gotten easier. It's always remained nerve-wracking. But I think what has gotten easier is the more times you perform in front of an audience, you may feel, I felt more comfortable. You know,
Yes.
you start to realise that, you know, the kind of worries you may have is that, am I going to perform badly? Are they going to not like what I do? But actually, people want you to succeed, and they want to see something enjoyable. They want to see you enjoying yourself.
That is absolutely
Yeah.
true. The
So,
audience are on
yeah,
your side.
They're on your side, and you know it's the same with auditions and panels and all this and that. They want to see you do your best. You know, they're not sort of judging you or harshly or anything. It's encouraging. So once you try and, for me, that's starting to set in a bit more as I go, and you just starting to feel more that level of comfort and security, knowing that actually it is supportive, really,
Yes.
even though it might not feel it when you're standing on the wings. You know.
That's fantastic. And after you've done the concert with us, what is your next performance, tour? What are the future plans?
Yeah. I've got some lovely things. I'm going up to Scotland to do Die Fledermaus, Strauss, as Alfred, which is a comic character sort of within the opera. The way that it's being played for us is as an Italian opera singer, and who's very flirtatious, and it's very good fun. So that's with Opera Bohemia. And then back to Glyndebourne to do chorus with some small roles and covers. And then in September I'm moving to Vienna to join the studio of the Vienna State Opera.
Congratulations, that's a massive, that must have been so exciting. How did you, what was the process about auditioning for that, and how did you feel when you got the news?
Well, it was a long process. Because now these days we always have to make and send recordings of singing, which is a very tricky thing to do. So the first stage was sending off recordings, and then they came to London to have a session with the people they wanted to hear, and then I went there and performed on their stage, and then I went back again for a working session to sort of try me out on some of the roles and ideas, what they thought might work for me. So it was a long process, process, yes. And now I found out on the day of the final time I went there, back in January, they told me after that I'd got a place, and it's incredibly exciting. Very, very daunting as well. There's a lot of, you know, he said very sternly, you need to learn German. You know, it's like, okay. Well. So, but no, it's really exciting, yeah.
Well, we certainly wish you all the best for that, and we're just delighted to have you with us performing this role for the first time.
It's a dream role. It's a real pleasure to join you. It's fantastic.
Thank you very much, Simon.
Thank you.
Great
Thank
to
you
speak
so
to
much.
you.
It's a pleasure.